The rain was coming down in thin, icy sheets outside the towering glass facade of the Turner law firm, but Madison Clark barely felt it. Her fingers trembled as she held the Mont Blanc pen, Bradley's favorite brand, the one he used to sign multi-million-dollar deals. Today, she used it to end their marriage. No screaming, no begging, no final plea. Just her quiet signature on the dotted line. A 10-year love story erased in less than a minute. Across the table, Bradley Turner didn't even look at her. He sat with perfect posture, scrolling through something on his iPhone, his lips curved in that arrogant half-smile he wore whenever he believed he'd won. Beside him, dressed in a cream-colored silk blouse entirely inappropriate for a divorce meeting, sat Lacey Monroe, the intern he had thrown everything away for. Madison swallowed the lump in her throat. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction. "It's done," the attorney announced. Bradley finally lifted his gaze, but only to say, "Good. My driver will take you home. The apartment has already been cleared of my things." Home. The word stabbed deeper than any insult. Because the apartment was no longer hers, the prenup saw to that. She had nothing left except a few boxes and the clothes in her suitcase. Madison stood, smoothing her coat, forcing her voice to stay steady. "I'll find my own way." Bradley didn't stop her. He didn't even pretend to care. She walked out of the conference room with her spine straight, but inside she was crumbling like wet paper. The elevator doors closed, and the moment she was alone, her legs gave out. Tears fell before she could stop them, hot, angry, humiliating. 10 years of sacrifice. 10 years of believing in a man who had traded her in like a business asset. And she had signed away every right to fight back. Outside, Manhattan's skyline blurred behind the rain as she stepped onto the street. Yellow cabs splashed water as they raced past. People hurried under umbrellas. No one looked at the woman whose entire life had shattered an hour ago. She was invisible, forgettable, replaceable. Her phone buzzed with a notification. A news alert. Bradley Turner makes first public appearance tonight with new love at the Park Avenue Tech Gala. Madison's breath caught. Already? They weren't even divorced for a full day. The article included a photo Lacey on Bradley's arm, smiling like she'd won a prize. It felt like someone twisting a knife in her chest. She closed the article and kept walking. No plan. No destination. Just motion. What she didn't know, what she couldn't possibly imagine, was that, tonight, while she was drowning in heartbreak, a camera lens across the city would soon capture something unexpected. Something that would ignite a wildfire she never intended to start. Something that would change everything. And Bradley Turner would regret ever letting her walk away. Hours after signing the divorce papers, Madison sat alone on the worn gray couch of her tiny Brooklyn sublet, a place so different from the Fifth Avenue apartment she used to share with Bradley that it felt like another universe. The radiator hissed unevenly, and the window leaked cold air. But she was too numb to care. Her suitcase lay open on the floor, half unpacked, like even her belongings weren't sure they wanted to stay. She kept staring at the headline glowing on her cracked iPhone screen. Bradley Turner to arrive at Park Avenue Tech Gala with new partner. New partner. What a generous phrase for a man who had been cheating for months. The photo attached to the article was worse than the headline. Bradley stepping out of a Mercedes S-Class, adjusting his tuxedo, with Lacey clinging to his arm like a designer accessory. The caption read, "The rising star couple of tech." Madison let out a hollow laugh. Rising star? Lacey didn't even finish grad school. Another notification popped up, this time a video clip. Against her better judgment, she tapped it. The footage showed the entrance of the Park Avenue ballroom, cameras flashing like a storm. Reporters shouted Bradley's name as he smiled for every angle. Lacey tilted her head onto his shoulder with practiced innocence. A reporter asked loudly, "Is it true your ex-wife caused the failure of your recent campaign? We heard internal sources say she sabotaged negotiations." Madison stopped breathing. Bradley didn't deny it. Worse, he smirked. Her heart plummeted. She felt physically ill. He hadn't just left her. He was rewriting their history, turning her into the villain to make his new romance shine brighter. She tried calling 2 old colleagues, desperate for someone to tell her this rumor wasn't spreading. Neither picked up. One sent a short text. "Maddie, I'm so sorry. HR doesn't want us involved." She sank deeper into the couch, pressing her palms into her forehead. Her entire career built over a decade was being washed away by a single expression on Bradley's face. A single smirk. She couldn't sit still. The apartment felt like it was shrinking around her. She grabbed her coat and stepped into the night, letting the cold air slap her awake. She walked aimlessly through Brooklyn's dimly lit streets, passing laundromats, corner bodegas, a Barnes and Noble closing for the night. The normalcy of it all made her grief feel even more unreal. As she waited at a crosswalk, two strangers behind her chatted casually about the gala. "That new girl he's with? She's gorgeous. Total upgrade." His ex looked tired. "I saw her in a picture last month." Madison blinked hard, fighting back tears. Even random strangers felt entitled to judge her life. The light turned green, and she walked faster. Her phone buzzed again. A new post. A gossip account had uploaded a clip of Bradley kissing Lacey inside the gala ballroom. The caption, "Real love always wins." Almost instantly, comments flooded in, most of them cruel. Madison felt something inside her crack, not like glass shattering but like a seam tearing open slowly, painfully. She leaned against a lamppost, breath shaky, the weight of humiliation crushing her chest. How had her life collapsed so completely in 24 hours? She wanted to disappear, to dissolve into the cold night air. But even in her darkest moment, she didn't know that this very fall, this brutal, humiliating fall, was setting the stage for a rise so unexpected, so explosive, that the world would soon be asking a very different question. Who is Madison Clark, and how did she become unstoppable? And someone, somewhere in Manhattan, had already noticed her pain and wasn't going to let it end here. The next morning, Madison woke up on the couch instead of her bed, still wearing her coat. Her throat was raw from crying, and her phone lay face down on the floor. She didn't remember falling asleep. She didn't remember much after the moment she saw that clip of Bradley kissing Lacey under a chandelier worth more than her yearly salary. Her body felt heavy, like someone had filled her limbs with stones. She forced herself to sit up. The apartment was painfully silent, no espresso machine humming. No faint jazz playing from the speakers Bradley used to control with his voice. No scent of his cologne lingering in the air. Just the thin, metallic smell of an old radiator and the faraway sound of traffic on Atlantic Avenue. Her stomach growled, but she ignored it. She opened her laptop, hoping work emails might distract her. Instead, she was greeted by a flood of messages from clients she once managed. "We're sorry, but due to the circumstances, we've been advised to shift representation. Given recent news, we'll be pausing collaborations indefinitely. Please remove yourself from our Slack channels." Every word sliced deeper. She closed the laptop and pressed her palms over her face. This wasn't just heartbreak. This was professional death. Her phone buzzed again. A voice message from her mother. Madison hesitated before listening. "Sweetheart, I heard about the divorce. We're worried. Please come home for a while. You don't need to be strong alone." Madison's eyes filled instantly. She wanted to collapse into her mother's arms, bury her pain somewhere safe. But she couldn't go home. Not yet. Not when people already whispered that she had nothing left. She stood up, grabbed her keys, and walked out. Maybe movement would stop her thoughts from devouring her whole. The winter wind slapped her cheeks as she stepped onto the street. She pulled her scarf tighter and headed toward the subway, blending into the crowd of commuters wearing black coats and tired expressions. She used to be like them, busy, confident, part of the city's rhythm. Now she felt like she was walking through someone else's life. She took the train to Manhattan, not knowing why. Some part of her needed to see the world she used to belong to, even if it hurt. She got off near Bryant Park and wandered past the holiday stalls being packed away. The memories stung. She and Bradley used to come here every December, drinking overpriced hot chocolate and planning their future. At Fifth Avenue, she stopped in front of a Tiffany & Co. window. A stunning diamond bracelet sparkled under the spotlight, almost identical to the one Bradley once promised he'd buy her when the company IPOs. He never did. Instead, he bought Lacey a Cartier necklace last week. The humiliation burned hot and sharp. Madison turned quickly, nearly bumping into a man carrying a coffee tray. The cups wobbled, and she apologized instinctively. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "It's okay," he said kindly before disappearing into the crowd. She kept walking until her feet ached. By late afternoon, she ended up in front of the very hotel where the gala had taken place the night before, the place where Bradley publicly rewrote their story. Reporters were still lingering outside, hoping for leftover scraps of scandal. Madison backed away, heart racing. She wasn't supposed to be seen this way, broken, lost, small. But fate didn't care what she wanted. Because in the middle of the sidewalk, someone called her name. Madison. She froze. No one should know her here. No one should recognize her in this city of millions. But when she turned around, she saw a face she didn't expect, one that would soon change the entire direction of her life. And he wasn't someone Bradley ever wanted near her. Madison felt the blood drain from her face as she turned toward the familiar voice. Standing a few feet away, holding a takeaway cup from Blue Bottle Coffee, was Oliver Grant. Not the billionaire investor everyone saw in Forbes. Not the most eligible bachelor of Manhattan the tabloids obsessed over. But Oliver, her college friend, the one person who knew the version of her before Bradley, before ambition poisoned everything. Madison Clark? He repeated, eyebrows raised, concern softening his sharp features. She managed a weak exhale. Oliver, what are you doing here? I could ask you the same, he said gently. His eyes swept over her, her wrinkled coat, tired face, trembling hands. He didn't say a word, but she knew he saw everything she was trying to hide. They hadn't spoken in years. Not since the day she declined an internship at his family's media group because Bradley called it unnecessary charity. Back then, she believed in loyalty, in building a future with a man who promised to protect her. Funny how fast promises disintegrated. Madison tried to mask her embarrassment. Just walking, thinking. In front of the same hotel that's been plastered all over the news because of your ex? He asked softly. That doesn't sound like thinking. That sounds like torture. Her breath hitched. She looked away, staring at the reflection of the rotating doors. Reporters hovered nearby, hungry for anything with Bradley's name attached. She couldn't risk them recognizing her. Not like this. Not broken. Let's get you out of here, Oliver said, stepping closer. His tone wasn't forceful, but firm enough that she didn't argue. She nodded. They walked down the block, away from the flashing cameras and curious eyes. When they reached a quieter street, Oliver handed her a fresh cup of coffee from the tray. Here. You look like you haven't slept. Ah. She took it with shaking fingers. The warmth was grounding, like touching something stable after days of spiraling. How long have you known, she asked quietly, about the divorce? Oliver hesitated. A few days. People talk. Especially when a guy like Bradley decides to make a spectacle of moving on. Her stomach twisted. So everyone thinks I'm the failure. No, Oliver said. Cowards talk loudest. Doesn't make them right. Madison bit her lip, fighting tears. She didn't want him to see her like this. He continued. You disappeared after college, Maddie. Then I hear your career took off. And then suddenly, silence. Until last night, when your ex paraded around like he invented heartbreak. His frustration surprised her. Oliver had no reason to care. I'm fine, she whispered. Don't lie to me. She flinched. His voice wasn't harsh, just painfully honest. I saw the video, he added. All of it. What he implied about you. What he let people believe. Her hands tightened around the cup. There's nothing I can do now. That's not true. She looked up, confused. But Oliver wasn't offering empty comfort. His expression had shifted, calculated, thoughtful, like he was analyzing a strategy. You're talented, Maddie. You were brilliant before Bradley, and you'll be brilliant after him. But you can't rebuild alone, not with the smear campaign he's creating. I don't have connections anymore, she whispered. I don't even have a job. Oliver held her gaze. Then maybe it's time you stop fighting this war alone. She blinked, startled. Why would you help me? He didn't answer right away. He took a breath, studying her face with a mixture of familiarity and something deeper, something she wasn't ready to name. Because I should have helped you years ago, he said quietly. Madison's heart thudded in her chest. Before she could respond, a loud click shattered the moment. A camera shudder. She froze. A paparazzo across the street lowered his lens, aimed straight at her and Oliver. Oliver cursed under his breath. Great. This is about to get messy. And he was right. Because that photo wouldn't just circulate, it would explode. And Bradley Turner would see it before anyone else. The next morning, Madison woke to the sharp, repetitive buzzing of her phone vibrating across her nightstand. At first, she ignored it. She was too groggy, too emotionally drained, and too unwilling to face another headline about Bradley's perfect evening with his perfect affair. But when the buzzing didn't stop, she forced her swollen eyes open and reached for the device. The first thing she saw was a notification from a major gossip account. Who is the mystery man with Madison Clark? Her breath caught. She sat up fast enough to make her vision blur. With trembling hands, she opened the post. The photo was unmistakably from last night. She and Oliver standing close on the sidewalk, coffee cups in hand, his expression protective, hers fragile but hopeful. A moment that felt private, a moment she didn't even know had been captured, was now plastered across social media. And the comments were already flooding in. Isn't she Bradley Turner's ex? She moved on fast. That guy is hot. Upgrade. Wait. Isn't that Oliver Grant from Grant Media? Oh, Bradley is gonna lose his mind. Nah. Madison's pulse hammered. A sickening mix of fear and disbelief swirled in her chest. She hadn't done anything wrong, she knew that, but the internet didn't care about truth. The internet cared about spectacle. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a text. Unknown number. Classy of you to run to another man already. She didn't need a name to know who it was. Bradley. Hands shaking, she turned the screen off. But the silence lasted barely seconds before another barrage of notifications appeared. Articles, memes, TikToks. People analyzing her posture, her clothes, her expression. People comparing her to Lacey. People calling her desperate, or empowered, or manipulative. Everyone had an opinion about a life they knew nothing about. Then came the worst message of all from her former boss. Given the current media attention surrounding you, we are no longer able to consider reinstating you or providing references. Her throat tightened. Any chance of salvaging her career was crumbling. And it wasn't even her fault. She buried her face in her hands. This was exactly what she feared. Any misstep, even one she didn't make, would be used against her. Bradley had painted her as unstable, emotional, unprofessional. And now, with one photo, the world believed him a little more. A knock suddenly echoed through the apartment. Madison stiffened. She wasn't expecting anyone. Heart pounding, she approached the door and peeked through the peephole. Oliver. She hesitated before opening it. He looked concerned, hair damp from the cold, navy coat dusted with snow, a to-go bag from a cafe in his hand. Hey, he said quietly. You okay? No, she admitted. The word came out cracked. He stepped inside, shutting the door behind him. I figured the photo might hit hard. That's an understatement. She gave a hollow laugh. My career is basically dead. And Bradley, he's already twisting this. Oliver set the to-go bag on the counter and turned toward her. Then let him twist. Let him spin whatever story he wants. Because sooner or later, the truth wins. You sound confident. I am, he said simply. And not just about the truth, about you. Her breath caught, but before she could respond, her phone lit up again, this time with a breaking news alert. Turner Innovations stock takes a hit after rumors of personal drama affect investor confidence. Oliver read it over her shoulder. A slow, knowing smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Well, he murmured. Looks like Bradley's morning is worse than yours. Madison didn't smile, but something warm flickered in her chest, a spark, faint but real, because for the first time since her world fell apart, she wasn't falling alone. And that small shift would soon become the very thing that turned her entire story upside down. Madison had barely processed the headline when her phone lit up again, this time with a name she never expected to see so soon. Bradley Turner calling. Her stomach tightened. The last person she wanted to hear from was her ex-husband, the same man who let the world believe she sabotaged his project. The same man who replaced her in the blink of an eye. She stared at the screen, heart pounding, then pressed decline without hesitation. Oliver, still standing near the counter, raised a brow. He's already trying to reach you? Of course, Madison whispered, sinking onto the couch. He sees one photo of me standing next to someone he can't control, and suddenly he's desperate. Oliver sat across from her, hands clasped. You don't have to answer him. Not now. Not ever. But Bradley didn't give up. The phone buzzed again. And again. 5 missed calls. Then 7. Then 10. Finally, a text. "We need to talk. Call me back." Madison laughed bitterly. Now he wants to talk, after weeks of silence. "Because now you have the leverage," Oliver replied calmly. Leverage. She'd never had leverage before. Bradley made sure of that. Her phone buzzed with another alert, this time from a financial news site. Turner Innovations faces internal concerns as investors question CEO's judgment amid personal scandal. A second notification followed. Anonymous insider claims Madison Clark was unfairly blamed for project failure. Madison's breath caught. "Wait, someone defended me?" Oliver leaned in. "People are braver when the tide changes." "Man." She wasn't sure if that comforted her or made her nauseous. Before she could speak, a new message popped up, this one from an unknown number. "You're ruining everything. Stop feeding the media and meet me." She blinked. "Is he serious?" "I didn't leak anything." "I know that," Oliver said. "But Bradley only sees threats. And right now, you're his biggest one." A knock suddenly echoed across the apartment. Madison froze. She exchanged a startled glance with Oliver. "Are you expecting someone?" he asked. She shook her head. "No." Oliver stepped toward the door, cautious. He looked through the peephole, then exhaled sharply. "It's your ex." Madison's chest constricted. "Bradley is here, at my door." Without warning, the knocking became louder, more insistent. "Madison, open the door." Bradley's voice boomed from the hallway. "I know you're in there." Her pulse spiked. She backed away instinctively. Oliver moved toward her protectively. "You don't have to open it." But Bradley kept pounding harder now. "Madison, this is serious. I'm not leaving until you talk to me." She felt a wave of anger break through her fear. He ignored her when she begged for answers. He replaced her without hesitation. He let the world mock her, blame her, erase her. And suddenly now he cared. Oliver placed a steady hand on her arm. "Do you want me to handle it?" Madison swallowed hard. "No. I'll do it." She walked to the door, inhaling a shaky breath, and cracked it open just enough to see Bradley standing there in a tailored charcoal coat. Hair perfectly styled, yet his eyes were wild, unfocused. Not the picture-perfect CEO the cameras adored. "What do you want, Bradley?" she asked coldly. He glanced over her shoulder and saw Oliver inside. His jaw clenched instantly. "So it's true," he snapped. "You're with him." Madison's voice was calm. Too calm. "I'm not with anyone, and even if I were, it's none of your concern." Bradley stepped forward, but Madison didn't budge. She kept the door firmly braced with her foot. "You're destroying my reputation," he hissed. "My investors are panicking. The board wants explanations. You need to tell the media that nothing is going on with Grant." Madison stared at him in disbelief. "You blamed me for a failed project. You humiliated me. You replaced me. And now you want me to save you." Bradley's nostrils flared, his voice sharp. "I made you. I can still destroy." He didn't finish. Oliver was suddenly behind Madison, posture straight, expression icy. "Careful, Turner," he warned. "You're forgetting the part where you don't own her anymore." Bradley stiffened, and Madison, heart racing, realized something shocking. For the first time since the divorce, Bradley was afraid, and that fear was only the beginning. Bradley stood frozen in the doorway, jaw tight, eyes darting between Madison and Oliver like he was calculating a threat level. He had always been composed, always the man in control. But now there was something frantic in the stiffness of his shoulders, a flicker of desperation buried beneath the arrogance. Madison kept her grip firm on the door. "You need to leave," she said quietly, but with a steadiness she didn't feel. Bradley's voice dropped to a harsh whisper. "Not until you understand what you've done." Oliver took one step forward. "She hasn't done anything. Your scandal is your own creation." Bradley shot him a venomous glare. "Stay out of this, Grant. You've already done enough damage." Oliver didn't flinch. "The only thing I've done is show up when you didn't." Madison expected Bradley to lash out, but instead he exhaled sharply and turned his frustration back toward her. "Maddie, I'm serious. The board called an emergency meeting this morning. They think I'm distracted. They think my choices are questionable." You mean choosing your intern over your wife? She asked. Bradley ignored the jab. They want assurances. They want stability. They want to know the mess with you isn't going to impact Turner Innovations. Madison blinked slowly. Mess with me? Bradley, you are the mess. He flinched just slightly, but enough for her to catch it. Just issue a statement, he insisted. Say the photo with Grant was taken out of context. That you two aren't involved. That you're focusing on yourself. And what do I get? She asked coolly. Bradley straightened. You don't get dragged further into the press. You don't lose more than you already have. A hollow laugh left her lips. Bradley, I've already lost everything because of you. He opened his mouth, but Madison cut him off, her voice colder now. Actually, no, not everything. Bradley frowned. What does that mean? Madison stepped back from the door not to invite him in, but to grab something from her kitchen counter. A plain white envelope. She'd forgotten all about it until this morning, buried under a stack of unopened mail delivered to her old address before she moved. The return label read, Turner Innovations, Human Resources Division. Did you know they sent me this? She asked, holding it up. Bradley's face pallid. What? What is it? Madison pulled out the printed packet, flipping to the highlighted section. It's the internal audit report from the project you blamed me for, she said. Someone in HR forwarded it before the legal freeze. Maybe they thought I deserved to see the truth. Bradley swallowed hard. Maddie? She read aloud, slowly, every word slicing through the air like glass. The project's failure stemmed from financial mismanagement and unauthorized spending approved solely by CEO Bradley Turner. Bradley's eyes widened in panic. Stop. There is no evidence that former employee Madison Clark contributed to the failed negotiations. Oliver let out a low whistle. Well, that's inconvenient for him. Madison continued, voice steady but trembling at the edges. And here's the best part, Bradley. The responsibility lies with executive leadership, meaning you. Bradley's bravado crumbled. Madison, you weren't supposed to see that. It's internal. It doesn't mean... It means everything, she cut in. You lied. You destroyed my reputation to protect your own. He ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair, a gesture she knew meant panic was settling in. Look, Maddie, the board doesn't know about this. If this gets out, you'll lose everything? She said softly. Bradley stared at her, speechless. For the first time since the divorce, Madison felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Power. Not revenge. Not victory. But the quiet, solid weight of truth. Oliver stepped beside her, arms crossed. The day you threw her away is the day you put your entire empire at risk. That's on you. Bradley looked at Madison, voice cracking around the edges. Maddie, we can fix this. Together. Len. She shook her head, a calm settling over her like warm sunlight. No, Bradley, you broke it. And now you get to live with the consequences. Before he could respond, she closed the door firm. Final. Bradley Turner had officially lost control, and Madison Clark had just taken the first step toward reclaiming her name. Madison didn't sleep that night. Not because of fear this time, but because of a strange, flickering sense of possibility pulsing through her veins. The internal audit report lay on her kitchen table, illuminated by the dim glow of her floor lamp. Every sentence on the page felt like a breath of fresh air after months of suffocation. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't incompetent. She had been framed. The truth didn't erase the pain, but it fortified something inside her. By sunrise, she had showered, styled her hair into a clean low bun, and dressed in the one outfit she still owned from her old life, a tailored black blazer, crisp white blouse, and charcoal slacks. Modest, but sharp. Professional, a reminder that she once belonged in boardrooms, not hiding in the shadows of Bradley's lies. Oliver arrived at her door at 8 a.m., sharp, holding 2 coffees and a calm, observant expression. You look different, he said, offering her the cup with extra vanilla the way she used to order in college. Good different, she asked. Powerful different. The words hit her deeper than she expected. They took the subway into Midtown, something Oliver rarely did, judging by the confused look he gave the turnstiles. Passengers glanced at him curiously, probably recognizing the billionaire in a navy wool coat, clutching a coffee like a confused tourist. Madison found herself smiling for the first time in days. Outside, the sharp winter sun reflected off the skyscrapers. One Vanderbilt towered above them like a steel monument to ambition. Oliver nodded at the revolving doors. My office is on the 49th floor. Thought it was time we talked options. Options? She repeated, suddenly nervous. You have talent, Maddie. Raw, rare talent. And now you have something even more valuable, truth. If you want your career back, I can help. If you want justice, I can help. If you want peace, well, I'm less skilled at that, he added with a small grin. Despite everything, she laughed. They rode up in near silence, the elevator's soft hum steadying her heartbeat. When the doors opened, Madison felt like she'd stepped into another world, a sleek office full of glass walls, marble accents, buzzing energy, and employees who carried themselves with purpose. It was everything she missed. Oliver led her into a conference room overlooking the Manhattan skyline. A panoramic view of the city shimmered below, sharp and endless. Before we discuss anything, he said, setting his coffee down, I need to know one thing. What do you want to do now that you know Bradley's lie can be dismantled? Madison inhaled slowly, considering the question. She'd spent so long fighting to survive that she had forgotten what choosing felt like. I want my name back, she said quietly. I want the truth out there. And your career? Oliver nudged. She met his gaze. I want that too. But not because of Bradley, not in reaction to him. I want something that's mine. Something he can't touch. Oliver nodded, satisfied. Then we'll start with this. He reached into his briefcase and slid a folder toward her. Madison opened it carefully. Inside was a preliminary contract, a consulting partnership with Grant Media Group. Salary, more than she ever earned at the agency. Autonomy, complete. Protection from external smear campaigns, guaranteed. Her breath hitched. Oliver, this is a starting point, he said. If you want it. Madison swallowed hard. For the first time since her marriage crumbled, she felt stable ground beneath her feet. But before she could respond, the door opened. A young assistant, cheeks flushed, hurried in. Mr. Grant, sorry to interrupt. Turner Innovations just issued a press statement. Bradley blames malicious outside forces for the stock drop and hints at legal action against, well, someone close to you. Madison stiffened. Oliver's jaw tightened. Show us, he said. The assistant handed him an iPad and left. Oliver scanned the statement, then handed the tablet to Madison. Her pulse throbbed in her ears as she read. Bradley wasn't just panicking. He was preparing for war. And this time, Madison wasn't alone. And the next move she made would flip his entire world upside down. Madison stared at the iPad, reading Bradley's press statement again and again. Each line felt like a slap across the face. Turner Innovations has reason to believe that outside individuals, motivated by personal vendettas, are attempting to destabilize the company. We will pursue legal action if necessary to protect our shareholders. He didn't name her. He didn't have to. Every journalist, every investor, every gossip site already knew exactly who he was pointing to. Her. And Oliver. Oliver exhaled slowly, leaning back in his chair, his jaw set in that controlled, calculating way that Madison recognized from his business interviews. It wasn't anger. It was strategy. Well, he said calmly, I expected desperation, but this is sloppy, amateurish, even. Madison, however, felt her stomach twist. He's painting me as a threat again, as if I'd ever try to sabotage him. You're not the problem, Oliver said. You're the scapegoat, and he's terrified because he knows the truth is finally in your hands. Madison swallowed, glancing at the internal audit report on the table. If we leak this, he's finished. Oliver didn't immediately answer. Instead, he stood and walked toward the glass wall overlooking Manhattan, hands in his pockets. He spoke without turning around. Before we make any move, I need to ask something important. He faced her. Do you want revenge? Or do you want justice? The room fell quiet. Madison's fingers tightened around the edge of the contract still sitting in front of her. Revenge came with a burn sharp, satisfying, but temporary. Justice. Justice carried weight. Permanence. I want my life back, she said finally. I want my dignity. And I want Bradley's lies exposed so he can never do this to anyone else. Oliver nodded once. Then we'll do this the right way. Clean, precise, A pause. Legal. The word felt grounding. Safe. But before they could discuss next steps, Oliver's assistant rushed in again, breathless. Mr. Grant Turner Innovations is trending on Twitter. Something new came out. Oliver took her iPhone, brows lifting slightly. Oh, this should be interesting. He handed the phone to Madison. Her eyes widened. A leaked screenshot clearly from inside Turner Innovations showed Bradley yelling in a conference room, slamming his fist on the table while board members looked horrified. Someone inside the company had filmed it. Under the photo, the caption read, "CEO meltdown, Turner lashes out as stock drops. Sources say he's losing control." Madison covered her mouth. Oliver smirked softly. "Looks like the cracks are widening faster than I thought." Hell. A second update appeared. Anonymous employee. Everyone knows he blamed Madison for his mistakes. She didn't deserve what he did. Madison felt her chest tighten not from fear, but from something like vindication. Tiny, fragile, but real. She whispered, "Someone's finally telling the truth." Oliver sat beside her, voice gentler now. "Your silence protected him longer than he deserved. But it doesn't have to protect him anymore." For a long moment, Madison didn't speak. She thought about the humiliation, the betrayal, the loneliness, the nights she cried alone, while Bradley smiled for cameras with Lacey. The career she'd lost, the woman she used to be. Something inside her shifted cleanly, decisively like a door unlocking. "What do we do next?" she asked. Oliver's smile was slow, deliberate. "We give the board of Turner Innovations something they can't ignore." He pulled out his phone and typed a message to his legal team. "When the truth comes out," he said, "Bradley won't just lose his narrative. He'll lose the one thing he cares about more than his marriage, more than his reputation." He turned to her. "His company." Madison inhaled sharply, the weight of the moment settling into her bones. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was reclamation. And for the first time, she wasn't afraid of the war Bradley wanted to start. Because this time, Madison Clark wasn't fighting alone. 2 days later, Madison found herself standing in the marble lobby of the Carter and Bloom corporate law firm, one of the most feared, respected, and ruthlessly efficient firms in all of Manhattan. Polished stone floors, towering glass walls, and a massive bronze sculpture created an atmosphere that hummed with power. The kind of place she never imagined she'd enter again, at least not on her own terms. Oliver walked beside her, confident as always, wearing a charcoal coat and a navy suit that blended seamlessly with the high-end corporate environment. He looked like he belonged here. She wasn't sure she did. "You're shaking," Oliver murmured. "Because this is real," she whispered. "If we do this, there's no turning back." He gave her a look steady, grounding. "Good. You're not supposed to turn back." "Mun." Before she could reply, a senior partner approached a tall woman with sharp features and a gaze that could cut through steel. "Miss Clark?" she asked. "That's me," Madison answered, lifting her chin. "I'm Victoria Hale. Mr. Grant briefed us. Please follow me." They entered a conference room overlooking Midtown. Sunlight bounced off the skyscrapers, turning the city into a mosaic of glass and fire. On the table lay several binders, a laptop, and sitting neatly in the center, the internal audit report that proved Bradley was responsible for the multi-million-dollar failure. Victoria sat, opened a folder, and spoke with clipped precision. "Your ex-husband's statement insinuates that you and Mr. Grant are intentionally destabilizing Turner Innovations. That is defamatory and actionable." Madison swallowed. "So we sue him?" "Potentially," Victoria said. "But that's one option, not the most strategic one." Victoria tapped the audit report. This is the real weapon. If the board of Turner Innovation sees this, Bradley's finished. Not only will he lose the CEO position, he may face sanctions, regulatory investigations, even shareholder lawsuits. Madison's breath hitched. "I don't want to ruin his life. I just want my name cleared." Victoria leaned forward. "Clearing your name and revealing the truth are the same thing. His downfall is simply the natural consequence." Madison absorbed that in silence. Oliver broke the pause. "What's the timeline?" Victoria opened a sleek leather planner. "The board meets tomorrow morning. If Miss Clark signs an affidavit verifying the authenticity of the report and detailing her wrongful termination, the board will be legally obligated to review it. Madison felt her pulse thrum. If I do this, Bradley will know it came from me. Yes, Victoria said. And he will learn what happens when he underestimates the one person who knows the truth. Madison stared at the document in front of her. It felt heavy, not in weight, but in meaning. This single signature could turn Bradley's world upside down. It could reclaim her voice, her identity, her career. Oliver watched her with quiet intensity. Whatever you choose, I'm with you. The words steadied her in a way she didn't expect. Madison picked up the pen. Her hand hovered, then pressed down. She signed. The room seemed to shift subtly, but unmistakably, like something in the universe had realigned. Victoria gathered the pages with a nod. By this time tomorrow, Bradley Turner will face consequences he cannot charm, lie, or manipulate his way out of. Madison exhaled shakily. I'm scared. Good, Victoria replied. It means you understand the stakes. But bravery isn't the absence of fear, it's choosing to act anyway. As they left the building, sunlight poured onto Madison's face. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the warmth settle into her bones. Tomorrow would be chaotic, brutal, public. But for the first time, she wasn't bracing for impact. She was preparing to rise. And when the board saw what Bradley had done, the fall they'd witness would be catastrophic. The next morning, Manhattan was wrapped in a sharp winter chill, the kind that cut straight through wool coats and expensive scarves. Madison felt it prick against her skin as she stood outside the Turner Innovations headquarters on Park Avenue. The glass building towered above her like a monument to everything she had lost and everything she was about to take back. Oliver had insisted on accompanying her. He stood beside her now, hands in the pockets of his navy coat, eyes trained on the lobby doors. You don't have to go in, he murmured. Victoria will deliver the affidavit for you. Madison shook her head. No, I need to see it. I need to be here when he realizes he can't bury me anymore. Oliver studied her, then nodded approvingly. They stepped into the lobby, where the marble floors shone like water and the receptionist snapped to attention the second she recognized Oliver Grant. Within minutes, they were escorted to the executive floor, directly outside the boardroom. Through the frosted glass wall, Madison could see shadows, board members settling into leather chairs, assistants handing out documents, the glint of silver Mont Blanc pens against polished mahogany. Her chest tightened. This was the room she had once dreamed of presenting in. The room she had been fired from without ever getting the chance to defend herself. Now, she was here for a different reason. A stronger one. The boardroom doors opened. A tall man in a gray suit stepped out. Miss Clark? The board has agreed to review your affidavit. Please wait here. He turned back inside. And then Bradley appeared. He looked disheveled. For the first time since she met him years ago, his perfect CEO facade was cracking. His tie was slightly crooked, his eyes rimmed red, and his usual smug expression was replaced by something raw and volatile. Maddie, what the hell do you think you're doing? He snapped. She kept her voice steady. Telling the truth. 1. Bradley's eyes flicked to Oliver. This is your fault. You're manipulating her. Oliver stepped forward, voice measured. She doesn't need manipulation. She needs justice. Bradley ignored him, focusing on Madison with desperate intensity. You're going to ruin me. Everything I built, everything we built, gone. Is that what you want? Madison's heart twisted, but not from guilt. From clarity. We didn't build anything, she said calmly. I built you up. You tore me down. Lun. He stared at her, breathing heavily. If you go through with this, the board could remove me. Investors will panic. The press will destroy me. Madison swallowed. You destroyed yourself when you blamed me for your mistakes. He grabbed her wrist, not hard, but enough to stop her. Maddie, don't do this. Please, I'm begging you. For a split second, the man she once loved flickered behind his eyes. But then she remembered the interviews where he called her unstable. The leaked rumors he never denied. The nights she cried alone. The humiliation. The loss. The way he looked at Lacey like she had never existed. She pulled her wrist free. You should have begged for honesty, not mercy. The boardroom door opened again. Miss Clark? We're ready. Bradley's face crumpled. No, you can't. But Madison stepped inside before he could finish. The room fell silent as she entered. 11 board members stared at her, some curious, some wary, some already holding the affidavit Victoria had delivered. Madison felt her spine lengthen. She took a seat at the end of the table. One of the directors cleared his throat. "Miss Clark, your submission raises serious concerns. Will require clarification." "I'm here to answer anything," she said softly. Oliver remained in the doorway, offering her a steady, silent anchor. Outside, Bradley's muffled voice rose, furious and desperate. Inside, Madison began recounting exactly how he had sabotaged the project and her. Not with bitterness, not with theatrics, just truth. And for the first time, she watched the board listen, really listen. Because the woman sitting before them wasn't the broken ex-wife the media painted. She was someone they had underestimated. And the moment she finished speaking, the board realized Bradley Turner's reign was officially hanging by a thread. Madison had imagined this moment 100 different ways. The long table, the sharp stares, the quiet tension humming beneath every polished surface. But nothing compared to the reality of sitting inside Turner Innovations' boardroom, her ex-husband pacing outside like a caged animal while she calmly dismantled the narrative he'd built on her back. When she finished presenting the truth, every fact, every date, every email silence filled the room. The directors exchanged looks, some grim, some stunned, some openly furious. The oldest board member, Mr. Aldridge, adjusted his glasses. "Miss Clark," he said slowly, "are you stating that Mr. Turner knowingly misrepresented your involvement in the project failure?" Madison nodded. "Yes. He shifted blame onto me to protect his image." A younger director, Miss Reynolds, leaned forward. "Why didn't you come forward sooner?" Madison met her gaze without flinching. "Because I was afraid." He controlled the narrative. "I didn't have the power or the resources to fight him." She took a breath. "But now I do." Miss Reynolds sat back, thoughtful. Another director closed the audit report with a heavy thud. "This document alone is troubling enough. Combined with the footage of Mr. Turner's outburst yesterday." He shook his head. "We are facing significant liability." "Len." The room murmured in agreement. Victoria Hale had been right once the board saw the truth. They couldn't ignore it. The chairman, Mr. Carver, spoke last. "Miss Clark, your testimony will be kept confidential during our internal review. But rest assured this matter will not be buried." For the first time in months, Madison felt something crack open inside her. Relief. Not euphoria. Not triumph. Just a simple, profound relief that the truth was finally breathing again. "Thank you," she whispered. The chairman nodded. "You may wait outside while we begin our discussion." Madison rose. Oliver stepped aside as she exited the boardroom, but she felt his reassuring presence behind her. Bradley was pacing the hallway, running a hand through his hair like he used to during finals week in college. Except this wasn't school. And this time, the consequences were real. He spun toward her the second she stepped out. "What did you tell them?" His voice cracked. "Maddie, what the hell did you do?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Her silence infuriated him. "You think you're some kind of hero now?" he spat. "You think anyone's going to believe you over me?" Oliver stepped closer, eyes cold. "They already do." Bradley shot him a death glare. "Stay out of this. This is between me and my wife." "Ex-wife," Madison corrected softly. He froze. The word cut deeper than anything else she'd said. The boardroom door opened, and the chairman stepped out, expression stern. "Mr. Turner," he said, "the board requires your presence immediately." Bradley swallowed hard. "Is this about?" "It's about everything," the chairman said. "Inside, now." Bradley looked at Madison one last time, eyes burning with a mix of anger, fear, and something she couldn't name. Then he walked inside. The door shut. Madison exhaled shakily, leaning against the wall. Oliver approached her gently. "You did it." "I don't know what I did," she whispered. "I don't know what comes next." Oliver looked at her with a softness she wasn't used to anymore. "What comes next," he said, "is closure. And something better after." Before she could respond, raised voices erupted from behind the boardroom doors. Loud. Explosive. Unmistakably Bradley. She closed her eyes, listening not with pleasure, but with a deep, quiet satisfaction. Because those weren't the sounds of a man in control. They were the sounds of a man losing everything he'd taken for granted. And when the doors opened again, Madison would witness a downfall that had been years in the making. A downfall born not from revenge but from truth finally being heard. The shouting from inside the boardroom grew sharper, each muffled word slicing through the heavy silence of the hallway. Madison stood frozen, her back against the wall, listening as the empire Bradley Turner once wielded like a weapon began to crack under the weight of its own lies. Inside, a voice thundered Bradley's. "You're taking her side? Over mine? I am this company." A calmer voice responded, firm and disappointed. "You were this company, Mr. Turner." Past tense. Another said, "Your behavior has jeopardized shareholder confidence. This is no longer about your marriage. It's about your judgment." Mine. Madison closed her eyes, the reality settling in. She never wanted revenge. She never imagined she'd be standing here while the man who destroyed her life unraveled in front of his peers. But some falls weren't pushed. Some falls were earned. Oliver stepped closer, speaking softly. "You okay?" "I don't know," she whispered. "I thought I'd feel proud or vindicated, but it just feels heavy." "It's supposed to feel heavy," he said gently. "Truth always is." "How?" The boardroom door finally swung open. Bradley stormed out first, face flushed red with rage, tie yanked loose, eyes wild, as if the world had betrayed him. But it wasn't the world. It was consequences. Directors filed out behind him, avoiding eye contact. Some looked disappointed, others ashamed. No one looked supportive. Bradley's gaze zeroed in on her. His voice dropped to a venomous hiss. "You did this." Madison stayed still. "No, Bradley. You did this to yourself." "One." He stepped closer, jaw clenched so tight a vein pulsed at his temple. "I hope you're proud. They're voting on my suspension." A small gasp escaped her, but not from delight. From disbelief. "They can't ignore the evidence," she said quietly. "You lied to them. You lied to everyone." "I lied to protect us," he snapped. "There was no us left to protect," she replied. "You traded that away the moment you chose your image over integrity." Bradley's mouth twisted into something dark. "You think any of this makes you look good? You think the world will see you as a hero? You're a pawn. Grant is using you to get leverage." Madison felt Oliver stiffen beside her, but she raised a hand, stopping him from responding. "No," she said calmly. "For the first time, someone actually believes me. That's not manipulation. That's support." Bradley scoffed. "You think he cares about you? He's a billionaire. He doesn't care about anyone." Madison held his gaze. "He cares more than you ever did." The words hit him like a blow. Before he could lash out again, the chairman stepped into the hall. "Mr. Turner, the board has reached a preliminary decision." Bradley went still. The chairman's voice was measured, cold, and merciless. "Effective immediately, you are placed on temporary suspension pending further investigation." "No," Bradley whispered, shaking his head. "You can't." "This is a unanimous decision," the chairman continued. "HR will escort you upstairs to gather any personal belongings. A public statement will be drafted within the hour." Bradley staggered back like the floor had shifted beneath him. "This is my company," he shouted loud enough for the entire floor to hear. But no one stopped. No one sympathized. No one defended him. Security approached from the elevator. When Bradley saw them, something in his expression broke entirely, anger collapsing into disbelief, disbelief dissolving into raw devastation. He looked at Madison, voice trembling. "Please, Maddie, don't let them take everything." For a moment, one fragile, human moment, she saw the man she once loved. But then she remembered nights alone, tears shed in secret, and the years he stole from her. "I didn't take anything from you," she said softly. "You gave it away." Security stepped forward. Bradley didn't fight. He just stared at her as they walked him toward the elevator, defeated, undone, and stripped of the arrogance he once wore like armor. The doors closed with a quiet chime. Silence filled the hallway. Oliver exhaled slowly. "It's done." Madison nodded, though her heartbeat still thundered. It was done. But the world didn't know yet. And when the news broke, everything would erupt. The news broke faster than wildfire. Madison didn't even make it home before her phone began vibrating, non-stop notifications stacking one over another. lighting up her screen like a strobe. She and Oliver had barely stepped into the elevator lobby of Turner Innovations when the first headline appeared. Breaking: Bradley Turner suspended as CEO after boardroom meltdown. Within minutes, another. Leaked. Internal report shows CEO shifted blame for multi-million-dollar failure. Madison stood still, heart pounding, as journalists outside the building scrambled, cameras angled toward the doors. She could already see a few reporters rushing across Park Avenue, microphones raised, trying to get inside. Oliver gently placed a hand on her elbow. "We should go. They'll be all over this in the next 5 minutes." She nodded numbly, allowing him to guide her out a back exit and into a waiting black SUV, one of Oliver's drivers. The moment the door closed, the silence felt unreal, like stepping into a vacuum after a storm. Madison leaned her head against the window, watching the crowds gather at the front entrance of Turner Innovations. Reporters shouted, live streams started, and employees huddled in small, stunned groups. For years, Bradley Turner had been untouchable. Perfect. Admired. The golden boy of Park Avenue. Now, all of that was collapsing in real time. She should have felt triumph, victory, satisfaction. Instead, all she felt was overwhelmed. The driver merged into traffic. Oliver turned toward her, studying her quietly. "You okay?" "I don't know," she admitted. "It's all happening so fast." "That's what truth does," he said. It moved slowly for a long time. Then all at once, her phone buzzed again so violently she flinched. She turned it over. Hundreds of messages, most from unknown numbers. A few from people she once considered friends. And one message from an unsaved number that made her stomach twist. "Is it true? Please tell me it's not as bad as it looks. Bradley." She locked the screen without replying. As the SUV crossed the Queensboro Bridge, the skyline stretched across the horizon, Manhattan glittering in the winter sun like nothing had happened. But Madison had changed. Forever. When they reached her Brooklyn building, Oliver walked her upstairs. It wasn't planned, but she didn't stop him. She wasn't ready to be alone just yet. Inside, she sank onto the couch, feeling every ounce of exhaustion flood in at once. Oliver sat across from her, elbows on his knees. "Madison, this isn't just the end of something. It's the beginning." "The beginning of what?" she whispered. "Of you getting your life back." Madison swallowed hard. Part of her wanted to believe him. Another part, the part still bruised and shaky, wasn't sure she deserved anything good. Before she could respond, the news anchor's voice echoed from her TV. She hadn't realized it was still on. Sources confirm that Turner Innovations will release an official statement this afternoon. Early reports indicate the board is considering a permanent leadership change. The anchor paused, then added, "And new information suggests the former CEO may have engaged in misconduct, including blaming ex-wife Madison Clark for decisions he personally authorized." Madison froze. Her name, said clearly, on national television, not as the villain, not as a footnote, but as the victim of his actions. She felt something warm gather behind her eyes, a pressure she tried to blink away. Oliver moved closer. "The world sees you now. The real you." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I never wanted this kind of attention." "I know," he said softly. "But sometimes the only way to reclaim your voice is to let the world hear it." Her phone rang. This time, it wasn't Bradley. It was a news network. Then another. And another. Requests for interviews. Offers to share her side. Opportunities she couldn't have imagined a week ago. But before Madison could speak, another notification pinged. A private message. From Lacey Monroe, the woman Bradley destroyed her for. "You don't know everything. Please, we need to talk. It's important." Madison stared at the message. Pulse racing. Oliver's voice dropped. "What does she want?" Madison inhaled slowly. "I don't know. But if she's reaching out now, something's wrong. And whatever Lacey was hiding might be the final twist. No one expected one that would blow Bradley's world apart for good." Madison stared at Lacey's message for a long moment, feeling her pulse thrum in her ears. The woman who ruined her life. The woman Bradley paraded through Manhattan like a trophy. The woman who helped frame her. Now wanted to talk? She didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or throw her phone across the room. Oliver watched her closely. "What did she say?" Madison handed him the phone. His expression darkened as he read the message. "She's scared," he said. "That's what this sounds like." Madison exhaled shakily. "But why come to me? After everything she did?" "Because Bradley's collapsing," Oliver replied. "And when powerful men fall, they pull their accomplices down with them." That thought settled heavily in her chest. She wasn't sure she wanted anything to do with Lacey, but something told her this wasn't a message she could ignore. After several minutes of quiet, Madison typed back, "I'll meet you. Public place. 1 hour." Oliver frowned. "You're not meeting her alone." "I have to," Madison said. "This might be the missing piece." He hesitated, then nodded. "Fine. But I'll be nearby." Len. They chose a small cafe in Soho, one of those warm, brick-walled places with vintage lamps and jazz playing softly in the background. The kind of place people went to have conversations they didn't want the world to hear. Lacey was already there when Madison arrived, but she looked nothing like the polished, self-assured woman from the tabloids. Her makeup was smudged, her hands trembled around a cup of untouched chamomile tea, and her eyes were swollen from crying. When she saw Madison, she stood abruptly. "Thank you for coming. I didn't think you would." Madison sat across from her, spine straight. "You have 5 minutes. Say what you need to say." Lacey swallowed hard. "I never meant for everything to go this far. I didn't know what Bradley was capable of." Madison said nothing, forcing Lacey to continue. "He told me you were unfaithful," Lacey whispered. "He said you didn't support him, that you ruined everything he tried to build. He made me believe you were the reason he was unhappy." A bitter laugh escaped Madison. "You believed him because you wanted to." Lacey flinched. "I know, and I'm sorry. I didn't understand until he turned on me too." Madison's breath caught for a second. "What do you mean?" Lacey took out her phone with shaking hands and opened her photo gallery. She turned the screen toward Madison. A screenshot, then another, then another. Messages from Bradley. Messages threatening her. Messages blaming her for the stock drop. Messages implying she would take the fall if needed. He said if the board kept pushing, he would say I leaked confidential information, Lacey whispered. He said women like us were replaceable, that he'd find another intern willing to do what he wanted. Madison felt her stomach turn. Of course Bradley would do this. Of course, he would throw his mistress under the bus the second she became inconvenient. Lacey continued, voice cracking. "There's more. The night before you got fired, Bradley told me to log into your email and send that document. He said it was the only way to protect the company. I didn't think it would ruin you." Madison's eyes burned. So it was her. Lacey was the one who carried out the sabotage Bradley designed. But as Lacey continued shaking, eyes filled with guilt, Madison felt something unexpected. Pity, not acceptance, not forgiveness. Just pity for a young woman who'd been caught in Bradley's cycle of manipulation. "There's also this," Lacey whispered, handing Madison a folded sheet of paper. Madison opened it. A printed email. One she'd never seen. One from a board member warning Bradley that using Madison as a scapegoat would not be tolerated. Bradley had hidden it, then doubled down on destroying her. Madison's blood ran cold. "If you give this to the board," Lacey said softly, "they won't just suspend him. They'll fire him. Permanently." Madison exhaled, chest rising and falling as the weight of this revelation settled over her. This wasn't just a confession. This was the final nail. Before she could respond, Oliver entered the cafe quietly and stepped beside her. His eyes met hers, full of calm certainty. "It's over," he murmured. "He can't escape this now." Madison folded the email, hands steady at last. "No," she whispered. "It's not over." She looked at the door. It's time for the world to know everything. And when the truth came out, Bradley Turner wouldn't just lose his company, he would lose the last piece of control he ever had over her. The next morning, Manhattan woke up vibrating with scandal. Every news outlet, every finance blog, every gossip account was running the same story. Bradley Turner suspended. Turner Innovations in crisis. Whispers of misconduct. A cover-up. A toxic CEO. But none of them had the full truth. Not yet. Madison stood in front of her bathroom mirror, hands pressed against the cold marble counter of her tiny apartment. For the first time in months, She didn't see a broken woman. She didn't see a failure. She didn't even see a victim. She saw someone rising. She tied her hair back, put on subtle makeup, and slipped into a fitted navy dress, simple, clean, elegant. Over it, a light gray trench coat. She looked like the version of herself she used to believe in. The woman who dreamed big before Bradley chipped away at her confidence piece by piece. Oliver waited for her downstairs, leaning against a black Mercedes with its engine quietly humming. He looked up the moment he heard her steps. His expression softened. "You ready?" Madison exhaled. "As I'll ever be." They slid into the back seat. The city blurred outside the East River, the rows of brownstones, the steel and glass of Midtown. She tried to steady her breath. Oliver noticed. "You're nervous." "I'm about to go on national television," she said. "Of course I'm nervous." "Good," he replied. "It means you care about the truth." She stared at him, surprised by how steady his presence felt, like a lighthouse in a storm. As the car pulled into the underground garage of a major news network, Madison's phone buzzed. A text. From Bradley. "Please don't do this. I've lost everything." "Isn't that enough?" Madison stared at the message, her pulse tightening. For a brief second, old memories surfaced: birthdays, vacations, the early years when their love still felt untouched by ambition. But then she remembered the pain, the lies, the smear campaign, the nights she cried until her pillow was drenched, the way he destroyed her career without hesitation. She powered off her phone. Inside the building, staff escorted her past rows of monitors and bustling producers. Oliver walked beside her, refusing to let her face any of this alone. They stopped outside Studio 4B. The anchor, a respected journalist known for her brutal honesty, stepped out to greet them. "Miss Clark," she said warmly. "Thank you for choosing us to tell your story." Madison managed a small smile. "Thank you for giving me a chance." "You're brave," the anchor said. "Very few people stand up against someone like Bradley Turner." The statement hit deep. Madison's chest tightened, but with pride, not fear. Inside the studio, bright lights bathed the sleek modern set. Screens displayed headlines about Turner innovations. A makeup artist touched up Madison's face, but she barely registered the brushstrokes. Her mind replayed the email Lacey had given her. Bradley's threats. The lies he built his empire on. 5 minutes, a producer announced. Madison inhaled deeply. Oliver leaned closer. "No matter what happens out there," he said softly, "you already won. You took your voice back." "On." She nodded, eyes burning. "I'm doing this for me. And for everyone he's ever stepped on," Oliver added. The producer signaled. "We're ready." Madison walked onto the set. The chair felt cold beneath her. The anchor sat across from her, microphone clipped, notes in hand. The countdown began. 3, 2, 1. The cameras turned red. "Good morning," the anchor said. "Today we bring you an exclusive interview with Madison Clark, the woman at the center of the Turner Innovations scandal." Madison lifted her chin. "Miss Clark," the anchor continued gently, "the world has heard Bradley Turner's version. Today, they hear yours." A quiet, powerful steadiness filled Madison's chest. This was her moment. She took a breath, slow, calm, unshaken, and spoke her first words. "The truth is, everything the public believes about me is a lie, and it's time that ends." And with that, Madison Clark began unraveling Bradley Turner's empire live on national television, and the world would never see her or him the same way again. The moment Madison's interview aired, the world stopped pretending it didn't care. The anchor began gently, but the questions grew sharper, more pointed, more revealing. Madison answered each one with a mix of composure and truth that made even the studio crew go silent. "Did you sabotage the project?" "No. Bradley did, and he let me take the fall." "Did you know about the financial discrepancies?" "I learned the truth only after I was destroyed for it." "Why didn't you speak sooner?" "Because I didn't have the power to fight him. Now, I do." Her words didn't come from anger or vengeance. They came from clarity, from exhaustion, from a long-suppressed desire to simply be believed. Then the anchor asked the question that would ignite the internet. "Do you believe Bradley Turner is fit to return as CEO?" Madison didn't hesitate. "No, because leadership is not built on lies." The anchor looked stunned. The control room went silent. Oliver, watching from behind the camera, felt the tension in the air shift, something heavy cracking open. But the moment that truly changed, everything came near the end. The anchor leaned forward. "Miss Clark, do you have proof that Bradley intentionally misled the board?" Madison reached into her coat and placed 2 papers and a single photograph on the table. "This," she said steadily, "is the truth." The camera zoomed in. The internal audit, the board warning email Bradley hid, and a screenshot of his messages threatening to frame Lacey. The anchor's eyebrows shot up. "You're willing to share these publicly?" "If I don't," Madison said, "he'll keep doing it to other women." The studio fell silent. Even the anchor looked shaken. The interview ended with the kind of tension that leaves a room breathless. The moment the cameras cut, the anchor leaned across the desk. "Miss Clark," she whispered, "I hope you understand you just changed the entire narrative." Madison nodded, throat tight. "I didn't want to hurt him." "You didn't," the anchor replied softly. "You exposed him. There's a difference." 1. Oliver stepped forward as Madison stood, her legs trembling slightly. He placed a hand on her back, guiding her out of the studio with a quiet steadiness. "You were incredible," he said. "I have never ever been prouder." Madison tried to laugh, but emotion clogged her throat. "I feel like I'm going to faint." "That's normal. You just shifted Wall Street by accident." 1. They exited through a side door to avoid reporters. But even then, Madison could hear the city buzzing car horns, footsteps, people speaking into phones. By the time they reached the SUV, Oliver's phone blew up with notifications. Then Madison's phone turned back on, and nearly froze from the storm of calls. Journalists, former colleagues, strangers thanking her, women sharing their own stories, and 3 missed calls from Turner Innovation's board. But the messages from the public were what hit hardest. "You were brave today. I believe you. Thank you for telling the truth." Madison felt tears prick her eyes. Oliver watched her, softening. This is what happens when a woman finally speaks. But the day wasn't over. As the SUV pulled into traffic, a new headline flashed across every taxi screen, every digital billboard, every phone on the sidewalk. "Turner Innovations considers termination of Bradley Turner after damning interview." Another headline followed seconds later. "Sources say Bradley Turner in hiding, emotional and unstable." Oliver muttered, "He's crumbling faster than I expected." Madison stared at the screen, heart heavy but steady. "I didn't want him destroyed. Just accountable." "Lon," Oliver's voice lowered. "He never believed you'd rise. That was his mistake." Traffic stopped at a red light. Outside the window, a crowd gathered around a storefront TV playing her interview on loop. People watched her, not with pity, not with mockery, but with respect. For the first time in months, she didn't hide her face. She lifted her chin, because Madison Clark wasn't just reclaiming her life. She was becoming a symbol. And symbols are impossible to silence. The city hadn't stopped buzzing since Madison's interview aired. New York thrives on scandal. But this wasn't just another story. This was the fall of a golden CEO, the collapse of a curated empire, the unmasking of a man who thought he was untouchable. By evening, every news channel ran special segments on the Turner Innovations crisis. Pundits debated. Shareholders panicked. Attorneys speculated about indictments. And somewhere in Manhattan, in a penthouse that once symbolized everything he stood for, Bradley Turner watched his world burn. Madison didn't know any of this yet. She was sitting in Oliver's office, wrapped in a soft gray blanket someone from his staff brought her, sipping tea she could barely taste. Every muscle in her body vibrated with adrenaline and exhaustion. She'd spent the last 3 hours answering calls from networks, lawyers, and women telling her she'd inspired them. It was overwhelming. Beautiful, but overwhelming. Oliver stood at the floor-to-ceiling window, Manhattan's lights reflecting off his sharp profile. "You don't have to stay up. You should rest." Madison shook her head. "Not yet. Something's coming. I can feel it." As if on cue, Oliver's assistant rushed in, breathless, holding a tablet. "You need to see this," she said. On the screen was a live stream reporters camped outside Bradley's penthouse building. The reporters spoke gravely. "Sources confirm that Bradley Turner has barricaded himself inside his residence. Security and police are on standby." Reports say he is refusing to answer calls from the board. Madison felt a cold shiver run through her. Oliver lowered the tablet, jaw tightening. He's spiraling. The reporter continued. Insiders claim Turner was seen earlier yelling at staff, smashing a glass decanter, and accusing unnamed individuals of ruining his legacy. Madison closed her eyes. This isn't what I wanted. I know, Oliver said softly. But his collapse isn't your doing. It's the result of years of lies catching up with him. Still, she couldn't ignore the sinking feeling in her chest. She used to love him, before the ambition, before the manipulation, before the empire mattered more than their marriage. Her phone buzzed. A voicemail. From Bradley. Oliver reached out. You don't have to listen. Madison shook her head. I need to. No. She pressed play. Bradley's voice filled the room hoarse, frantic, unraveling. Maddie, I saw the interview. How could you? Everything's gone. Everything I worked for. I know I hurt you, but this is going to destroy me. Call me back. Please. I can't do this alone. The message cut off abruptly. Madison felt her throat tighten. He sounds lost. She whispered. Oliver stepped closer. Madison, listen to me. This is manipulation, one last attempt to pull you back into his gravity. He's desperate, not remorseful. She knew Oliver was right. Her heart understood it. But her conscience felt heavy. Before she could respond, the tablet chimed again another update. A statement from Turner Innovations Board. We are exploring permanent termination of Mr. Turner. A replacement CEO will be announced pending final vote. Madison stared at the headline. He's done. Oliver exhaled. Yes. And tomorrow, the world will see the full report. His career is over. Len. Silence settled between them, thick and complex. Finally, Oliver spoke, voice low. You didn't destroy him. You revealed him. Madison nodded slowly, gripping the blanket tighter. But then the tablet flashed breaking news again, footage now showing Bradley being escorted from his penthouse by security, hair disheveled, face pale, shouting incoherently at the cameras. You don't know the truth. She lied. They're all lying. Madison's breath caught. This wasn't power. This wasn't arrogance. This was a man collapsing under the weight of his own sins. Reporters swarmed him, shouting questions. Police tried to clear the scene. Bradley stumbled, pointing at the cameras, shouting her name, as if she were the villain in his story. Madison looked away, tears pricking her eyes. I never wanted this. Oliver gently cupped her shoulder. But you needed your freedom. Sometimes truth doesn't crumble gently. Sometimes it shatters. Madison wiped her eyes. Tomorrow would be brutal, public, messy, but for the first time, she could face it without fear. Because this chapter, Bradley's downfall, wasn't hers to carry anymore. She whispered, mostly to herself, I'm ready for what comes next. And she meant it, because the next chapter wouldn't be about him. It would be about her. The next day dawned with a kind of brightness that felt almost unreal, sunlight bouncing off the glass towers of Manhattan, the streets buzzing louder than usual, the city pulsing with the same energy that now lived inside Madison. For the first time in a long time, she woke without panic in her chest. But when she stepped outside her building, that calm shattered. Dozens of reporters lined the sidewalk. Cameras clicked instantly, spilling flashes across her face. Microphones pushed toward her as voices overlapped chaotically. Miss Clark, is it true Bradley Turner's being removed permanently? Did you know your interview would cost him his career? Are you planning legal action of your own? The crowd pressed closer. But before Madison could even lift a hand, a black Mercedes pulled up smoothly. The back door opened, and Oliver stepped out wearing a charcoal coat, confidence radiating from every line of his frame. Back up, he ordered calmly, yet firmly. Surprisingly, they obeyed. People listened to Oliver Grant. He extended a hand toward Madison. She took it. The crowd buzzed even louder at that. In the car, Madison sagged back against the leather seat, catching her breath. I wasn't expecting all of that. Oliver gave her a small smile. You're a public figure now, she groaned. That's the last thing I want to be. Too late, he teased gently. You told the truth. And the world listened. That, as the car glided toward Midtown, Madison's phone vibrated again. Messages poured in, some supportive, some horrified by Bradley's meltdown last night, some begging for interviews. But one message stood out. A formal email. Turner Innovations Board. Emergency vote today. Outcome will be announced at 6 p.m. Madison's stomach tightened. It was almost over. By noon, Oliver brought her to a quiet penthouse he sometimes used for meetings, a space filled with soft lighting, warm wood, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. It was peaceful, grounding, exactly what she needed. He set down 2 cups of tea. You should rest before the announcement. She sat on the couch, but couldn't relax. Her mind churned with fragments of memories: Bradley laughing in their old kitchen, Bradley yelling at her during fights, Bradley smiling on magazine covers like the world belonged to him. She whispered, "Do you think he'll be okay?" Oliver's expression softened. "He'll survive. People like him always do. But he'll never have the power to hurt you again." Madison looked out the window, the city stretching endlessly before her. "I never wanted to ruin him." Oliver moved closer, his voice low. "You didn't ruin him, Madison. You revealed him. And people reveal who they really are when the mask falls." A knock interrupted them. Oliver's assistant poked her head in. "The board's live stream is starting." Madison's pulse spiked. They approached the large screen mounted on the wall. The Turner Innovations boardroom appeared somber, crowded, tense. The chairman stepped up to the microphone. "After reviewing all evidence, the board has come to a decision." Madison's breath caught. In a unanimous vote, Bradley Turner is officially removed as CEO and barred from any future leadership positions within the company. She exhaled, slow, shaky, emotional. It was done. Oficial. Irreversible. The chairman continued. "Effective immediately, Turner Innovations will enter a restructuring phase, including a public apology to those harmed by the former CEO's misconduct." The screen faded to black. Madison sank onto the couch, hands covering her face as tears spilled relief, exhaustion, closure, all blending into one overwhelming release. Oliver Kate beside her. "You did it." She looked at him, vision blurry. "I feel free." "You are." His hand brushed hers gently, hesitant, as if giving her space to pull away. She didn't. For the first time in years, Madison felt wanted without condition. Supported without being controlled. Seen without being judged. A deep quiet settled over the room. A new kind of warmth. And for the first time, Madison understood something simple and profound. This chapter wasn't about Bradley anymore. It was about her rise, her healing, her future. And that future was standing right in front of her. And tomorrow, the world would witness the next part of her transformation. The morning after Bradley's official removal, New York felt different, calmer, brighter, softer somehow. The air had that crisp, early spring bite, and sunlight streamed through Madison's apartment for the first time in months. She stood at the window with a cup of coffee warming her hands, watching the city breathe beneath her. For the first time in years, she wasn't afraid of her phone lighting up. She wasn't bracing for bad news. She wasn't hiding from the world. She wasn't shrinking. She was free. Her inbox was full messages from women thanking her for her honesty, from companies requesting consultations, from nonprofits asking her to speak about workplace manipulation and emotional abuse. She had become a voice, one she never planned to be, but one she had earned. When the intercom buzzed, she expected a delivery. Instead, Oliver's voice came through. "Good morning, Madison. Can I come up?" Her heart fluttered unexpectedly. "Yeah, come on up, Len." Moments later, Oliver stepped into her apartment carrying a small, tasteful bouquet of white roses, classic, elegant, nothing like the showy bouquets Bradley used to send when he wanted attention. "These are for you," he said. "No reason, just because today is the start of something new." Madison took the flowers, cheeks warming. "You didn't have to." "I know," he replied softly. "But I wanted to." They shared a quiet smile. The kind that held months, maybe years of unspoken understanding. "Come on," Oliver said gently. "There's something I want to show you." He led her out of the building to a waiting car. It wasn't a flashy limo or an overly sentimental gesture, just a clean black sedan, comfortable and understated. Madison appreciated the simplicity. They drove toward Midtown, weaving through the bustling streets, until they reached a tall glass building overlooking Bryant Park. Oliver guided her to the elevator and pressed the top floor. The doors opened to a breathtaking office suite filled with natural light, modern art, and a panoramic view of the city skyline. Central Park stretched out in greens and golds. Skyscrapers sparkled like polished diamonds. "This is for you," Oliver said quietly. Madison blinked. "What do you mean?" Oliver stepped closer. "I don't want to hire you." He paused. "I want to partner with you." She froze. "This," he gestured to the office, "is the headquarters for the new firm I'm building, and I want you to be co-founder." Madison felt the world tilt. "Oliver, you can't be serious." "I've never been more serious about anything." His voice softened. "You have talent, instinct, empathy, qualities leaders rarely have all at once. You've survived hell, and somehow you came out brighter. I don't want to build something without someone like you at my side." Tears welled in Madison's eyes, not from sadness, but from something that had been missing for so long. "Hope. You believe in me that much?" she whispered. "I believe in you more than you believe in yourself." She looked out at the skyline, the place that had broken her, humiliated her, crushed her, and now offered her a seat above it all. Madison inhaled deeply. "I'll do it," she said. "I want this." And when she turned back to face Oliver, she saw something new flicker in his eyes. Something warm, something gentle, something undeniably real. He stepped closer. "Madison, there's something else." "Ma." Her breath caught. "I didn't just stay by your side because it was right," he continued. "I stayed because I care about you, deeply." A tear slipped down Madison's cheek, not from pain, but relief. She whispered, "I care about you too." Oliver brushed a thumb over her cheek, tender and patient. "Then, let's build something better than what you lost. Something honest, something equal." She nodded, heart full. Outside, the city glowed. Inside, Madison Clark finally stepped into the life she deserved, stronger, wiser, loved, and unbreakable. Her past didn't define her. Her pain didn't imprison her. Her truth didn't destroy her. It set her free. And the woman who once left a marriage in silence now walked into her future, with her head held high, and someone worthy walking beside her. So, that's how the story ends, my wonderful friends. You're still here with me at this moment, right? If you truly stayed until now, it means something in this journey has touched your heart in a way you maybe didn't expect. And maybe, just maybe, you saw a part of yourself in Madison's pain, her courage, or her rise. Life will break us sometimes. People we trust will disappoint us. But as the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The obstacle is the way. What hurts you today can be the very thing that builds your strength tomorrow." Madison didn't win because she fought louder. She won because she chose truth over fear, dignity over revenge, and healing over bitterness. And that's a choice any of us can make. So take a breath. Look at where you've been and where you're going. You're stronger than you know, and your story isn't over. Not by a long shot. If this journey touched you, helped you breathe a little easier, or reminded you of your own worth, then let's keep walking together. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to our channel so you never walk these stories alone. You matter, and I'm glad you're here.